champion in Ferraris, but you said, as we are reporting directly from Spa-Francorchamps, the proud host, obviously, of round 12, effectively really still round 10 of the championship, this exciting 2026-2026 season, as we have taken a little step, or maybe we haven't or could have taken towards the Formula 1 championship, maybe the Constructors Championship, but not the Drivers Championship, but we had a fantastic chance, to win back-to-back races for the first time, obviously, since the United States and Mexican Grand Prix, towards the end of the 2024-2024 season, when we almost won our 17th Constructors Championship. So in this exclusive race reaction, we will take a look at exactly why we are not playing, that Italian national anthem. Or are we singing it or not? Because, of course, the Ferrari mechanics are actually singing it for Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who has gotten, I guess, that victory that he deserved for his performances. Certainly, for example, in the past, couple of races over here, because he basically hasn't won, right? If you think about it, in the British Grand Prix, in the Austrian Grand Prix, and the Spanish Grand Prix, but could have won them all. And you know why? Perhaps a bit of a mishap and not being exactly so precise by the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton was very costly, because it could have been him, and maybe could have been him celebrating instead of Charles Leclerc being right behind on Antonelli's very unfashionable rear wing, in that second position, which would be very, very important for the championship. And of course, we will also take a look at the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship, which is looking a bit better now. And of course, we will also talk about how well we mastered the British Grand Prix, which was our very own round 12 of that concurrent 2025-2025 season that I'm doing. So over here in that Team Pro Polo, that you could see all of the mechanics were on that iconic, historic, legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit over here. What can we tell you about this race? Lewis Hamilton had a bit of a crash, a bit of a, quite an impact with a barrier, obviously heading into stubble. So, that impacted, his preparation. Obviously, in qualifying, he did pretty well. But again, he would be a little bit quicker than Leclerc. So when Leclerc, lined up second and Hamilton was fourth, obviously, at the end of the qualifying two, it looked pretty good. But then, we came out done in the qualifying three when Antonelli, put up, quite a distance between himself and the Verstappen, who's gotten that tow from Isaac, we should say, Hajar, who basically has changed, like, I think, how many components? There must have been 6 components, so pretty much all of the components, because gearbox, obviously, you can use as many of them as you want. So I've gotten a brand new power unit, so he would start from the back anyway. That helped propel Verstappen to the second, Antonelli getting his pole position, and I think we had quite a chance and, looked pretty good, throughout the qualifying. But of course, we were just beat by Norris and Russell, but Norris also has taken additional extra power units, which resulted in 10th place grid penalty. So we would then line up 4th and 5th, even though we qualified 5th and 6th, which was a disappointment, especially considering that Hamilton and Leclerc had almost identical time. But again, it was the driver who's actually, further behind from that young teenager from Italy, who might be driving for Scuderia Ferrari sooner than later based on his performances, who has actually, been the lead Ferrari driver, which again presents the challenge if we really want to mount the challenge for the world driver's title, especially, of course, the world, it's the driver's title, the Formula 1 title. The constructor's title seems like a long shot, but because of what happened at turn 5 at the Lecombe chicane, of course, now it's looking much better for us as the Scarlet Ferraris. So, there was a threat of rain, as there always is at Spa, but actually, the weather held up quite well, of what will turn out to be a very, very, hopefully very special, obviously, weekend for sports, not just for Formula 1, but of course for FIFA Club World Cup, which will be kind of the special final addition to this exclusive race reaction. So yeah, the 5 lads went out, and Leclerc and Hamilton both got in a good start. But obviously, because that run-up to La Source is maybe even shorter than the run-up to San Devote in Monaco. So basically, you have no way, maybe even that Las Vegas run-up is short, it's not even that shorter. So, pretty much as you were, right? Nobody really has gotten off the line really badly. But then, of course, the 4-time champ, from Red Bull, of course, again, showing his full racecraft, you deployed all of the battery to get ahead of Antonelli heading into obviously the Eau Rouge, one of the most famous, if not the most famous corner on the Formula 1 calendar. Leclerc almost did the same to Russell, but he's actually gotten a perfect rundown through the Eau Rouge. I believe that it was very clear that Russell was compromised, and of course, Hamilton being right behind. What that resulted in was immense run-up from the Radillion all the way down the Camel Straight, and of course Verstappen being first, just like Vettel found out in 2017 when he was fighting Hamilton. He lost immediately to Antonelli, who slotted to the P1 that frankly deserved this weekend. But then Charles Leclerc did a great job because he's gotten a perfect run through Eau Rouge. Both Verstappen and Russell were compromised, even though of course they would be saying, oh, there was no battery deployment or whatever. Well, because you have taken the turn wrongly, probably you lifted, or you kept your foot planted, so you didn't take the ideal line, and you pay the price down the main straight. And of course, Leclerc, because he was probably the only one, since Antonelli also didn't get the ideal line through Eau Rouge, he almost has gotten into P1. That was very exciting, so he slotted into P2, and obviously you had P3, then Verstappen. Hamilton was almost there, but he went to the inside of the Russell, who then desperately tried to go very, very late on the brakes, but as a result, you could see that Hamilton pretty much had nowhere to go. Bit, the oversteer, I would suppose. You could see that Hamilton again had a bit of loss of the downforce, obviously, because probably he had to turn a bit more than usual, thanks to obviously the desperate attempt by Russell to stay ahead of Hamilton. There was a series of touches, which maybe you will see very similar one in my next races to come, but obviously fighting the Red Bull villain, and that resulted in Russell being beached in the gravel. Huge blow for his championship hopes, because obviously he was just one race win behind Antonelli, and now it's a 2 race wins. For Hamilton, sadly it resulted in a 5-second penalty, which I think is a bit harsh. But yeah, because obviously Russell, and they are so close in the championship, I guess, dish out that red minor or mild penalty, but it also meant that pretty much Hamilton was then out of the fight for the podium, because he actually would have finished very, very close, if not ahead of Verstappen on the Ferrari double podium, if it was not for that penalty. So bit of a clumsy weekend from the 7-time champion, because it really unraveled there, and you could see that he was actually faster than Leclerc. Obviously, he did a good job, then getting ahead of Piastri, who's gotten there, and of course when Verstappen then overtook Leclerc after obviously we were behind the safety car for the first couple of laps to get rid of the stricken Russell of the Mercedes. What then happened was that Verstappen sadly has gotten Leclerc, which maybe could have contributed to us not winning this race, even though we didn't kind of know at that point, because of course on the other hand Verstappen was able to keep up with Antonelli when everybody was running on the medium tires, but it would have been better if it would be us, and maybe we will try to attack the young teenager. At one point, obviously Piastri has gotten close to Leclerc as well, a bit of a touch, but because Leclerc has left that the racing width, so to speak, for the car, and maybe Piastri just turned a touch bit too early into the corner. Leclerc didn't really change his trajectory. Thankfully, there was no investigation necessary. And Hamilton with Leclerc went pretty much the same. Hamilton being more experienced into Leclerc. They've gotten through the corner nicely, but it was as close as Hamilton has gotten to overtaking Leclerc. Obviously, with that penalty, it would have been maybe better if he then went and maybe overtook Verstappen. We would have loved, to see these two, have a go at it. But it had ramifications, because obviously we stay out late, and we were 1 and 2 when Verstappen stopped for the Red Bull. Then Antonelli, was kind of made into the pit stop by the virtual safety car, which was again there, just to clear up some parts, on the road. Obviously, the advantage of the longest lap on the Formula 1 calendar is that you can have the stewards, for example, run up there in 20-30 seconds when there is usually a gap of over a minute, to clean some of the parts. So, the race control did a great job over here, with that first virtual safety safety car, but Antonelli was committed, went into it, and retained his lead. But we of course stay out late because we knew now we are running 1 and 2. We have the track position. And anything can happen, especially the full safety car would have been great, but also the virtual safety car which came, oh yay, that's right, on lap 21 over there. And that was great for us because we double stacked, so we obviously changed from the medium to the hards like everybody did with Leclerc, who then emerged in a lead. And that was a really game on. For Hamilton, you could see that was a real pity because obviously he was just a couple seconds behind. He then had to wait 5 seconds, which meant he lost the position to Piastri again. And to further compound, obviously the misfortune was that there was supposed to be a mechanic who would adjust his front wing to give him a bit more downforce, obviously for the hard tires, which don't produce so much of the downforce, but he didn't get out in time, so he got hit a little bit by Hamilton's front left, I believe. So that was a scary moment. Hamilton did a great job. Stop, is he okay? Went out, but there could still be a potential penalty coming Hamilton way for the unsafe release. At the time of the recording of this video, Hamilton just outside of the podium in P4. So yeah, that was a scary moment, right? But it also meant that it slowed down with Lewis a little bit. Then it also meant that he didn't have so much of a pace, but adjusted his settings and eventually hunted down Piastri and overtook him for P4. That was a great recovery at least, but obviously Verstappen was already 5 seconds down the road that you lost because obviously you got that unlucky touch with Russell. If the touch was bit of a less and Russell would stay there, I'm sure Hamilton wouldn't have even gotten a penalty. But you gotta stay clean, that's very important. Just like Antonelli, who now had pretty much 20 laps to hunt down the Monegasque Prince, and obviously he racing for Ferrari, he being the Italian. Norris was actually leading for a while. Norris obviously on the hard tires like Hajar, but he was immediately overtaken by Leclerc in the first 2 laps, after Leclerc's pit stop. And then you could see that Antonelli was slowly 2-3 tenths, eating into Leclerc's advantage. And I have to say, I'm really impressed by the maturity of the young Italian. Definitely a future Ferrari drive is, waiting for him if he drives like this, because he didn't overtake Leclerc immediately. He stuck in there for 2 or 3 laps, and then, when Leclerc was finally, really low on the battery, made his move. And Charlotte did actually a good job this time, to really keep up with Antonelli, again, buoyed by that victory, getting that great boost from the Silverstone. Leclerc, was fighting it hard. Obviously, he was, given advice on the engine braking and so on and so forth, but yeah, it was, it was clear that we didn't have the straight line speed, and, we were not particularly that mega through the middle sector. So, Antonelli, after 3 or 4 laps, he broke that magical 1 second, and that was the race over then, right? The last 5 laps, basically, Leclerc was unable, to get close to Antonelli. He eventually finished only 1.9 seconds behind. That's really, really encouraging. Obviously, virtual safety car helped us here, but I believe Leclerc and Hamilton definitely second and third was the best we could have done, because I believe, if Verstappen wasn't held by the tricky Red Bull play, and obviously with Russell, if he wasn't taken away, I don't think he had the ultimate pace to challenge us. So very encouraging. But again, Antonelli is in the class of his own. He always has, that half a second up to that he can pull out, and it's really difficult when he overtakes to overtake him back. That's the greatest strength, and it also simply means that, you as a drivers, we have to figure it out. The good thing is that obviously we will be bringing the updated turbo for Zandvoort or the Italy, and that can still have a big ramification on the second half of the championship. As things stand, let's turn around the Scuderia Red Retina IMAC to see how this race finished. Obviously, I've given you over here a great description. And over here we can see Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Going for his 6th victory. So Leclerc was on 9 wins. Obviously, he has won here in Belgium. He opened up his account in Formula 1 in 2019, 7 years ago. Remember, 7th championship for Michael Schumacher was won here but Antonelli didn't care about, any of, again, the statistical, kind of coincidences, and duly took the win that he frankly deserved. Charles Leclerc finished second, Verstappen eventually well down the road, over 10 seconds behind. Lewis Hamilton fourth for Scuderia Ferrari. Again, could have done better considering that he was still, even with that penalty, about 7-8 seconds behind Leclerc, after the pit stop. But when you have to overtake guys like Piastri, who finished fifth, obviously that costs you the time. Isaac Hadjar, very good recovery drive from P20, showing that he actually had the pace of Verstappen. Over here, 7 Lando Norris, it looked promising for him, but obviously slow pit stop derail, his chances of, maybe reeling in his teammate, or definitely Hadjar. 8 Gabriel Bortoleto, that's a great performance by Audi. I'm actually surprised that Hülkenberg is not there, but it shows you how much running in a clean air or fighting with the other guys can influence you, right? Look at the difference between Hamilton and Leclerc. If you take away that penalty, still 10 seconds, simply because Hamilton often had to fight, with the guys, like, for example, Piastri over here, and that simply costs you the time, right? Then the 9th, Arvid Lindblad in the updated Racing Bull, scoring 2 points, and 10, Franco Colapinto, who pulled off maybe similar move that I will pull off when you see my Belgian Grand Prix next weekend as part of the Hungarian Grand Prix, when he overtook, Lawson, who was then in the middle, and obviously on the left you had Pierre Gasly, just like you had Michael Schumacher on the left in 26 years ago during the 2000 race, that almost could have, pinned that championship towards the McLaren's favor. But Michael came in like a champion, and that's what Ferrari needs, right? Colapinto went to the right, just like obviously Häkkinen did to the Zonta's right, and that was actually a great move. I didn't see it during the race, but definitely do check out the highlights. So yeah, great result by Antonelli, now his 6th win, and he is, only 3 shy of Leclerc, so he could actually equal him at the Italian Grand Prix, and that would be just incredible. That really shows just, how few Grand Prix victories Leclerc has, despite being a Ferrari driver for 8 years. So this is our updated 2026 Formula 1 Drivers' Championship. Andrea Kimi Antonelli leading over here with a healthy lead now, 206 points. Lewis Hamilton on 159, which means Antonelli is leading by 45 points and by 50 points. Can you believe that? From his illustrious teammate George Russell, who's on 154 points. That's 2 race victories. So heading into the Italian Grand Prix, Antonelli will be ahead of Russell because he has 6 victories to Russell's 2, so he can't get him on a tie break. So, and Russell was, really broken, almost crying, obviously blaming the deployment. But to be perfectly honest with you, I think it was simply the bad line he has taken through Eau Rouge, which we also found out during the race can have a big impact. For Charles Leclerc, stringing good results for Scuderia Ferrari. This is great, 126 points. Now Leclerc is 33 points behind Hamilton. You can still see it's a lot of points. Hamilton is 45 behind Antonelli, so that means over here you are still 78 points behind Antonelli. It would have helped a lot over here if Leclerc won the race, because that would be a 14-point sprint. 64 points, that would have been more doable than 78. 5th, reigning world champion Lando Norris for McLaren, 103 points. 6, Oscar Piastri for McLaren, 92 points. 7, Max Verstappen, Red Bull, 91 points. 8, Isaac Hadjar, Red Bull, 60 points. 9, Pierre Gasly, Alpine, 42 points. 10 is then Liam Lawson, Racing Bulls, 39 points. The second half of the table, or rounding off the first half, depending how you see it, 11th place, Arvid Lindberg, Racing Bulls, 22 points. 12 is then Franco Colapinto, Alpine, 19 points. 13 is Oliver Behrman, Haas, 18 points. 14, Gabriel Bortoleto, now Audi, 10 points. Look how he has climbed. 15, Carlos Sainz Williams, 6 points. 16, Alexander Albon Williams, 5 points. 17, Esteban Ocon Haas, 3 points. The touch with teammate Behrman won't do him any good. 18, Fernando Alonso, Aston Martin, 1 point, still without the points. 19, Nico Hülkenberg, Audi, 0 points. 20, Valtteri Bottas, Cadillac, 0 points. 21st, Sergio Perez, who retired for Cadillac in this race, 0 points. 22nd, Lance Stroll, who retired for Aston Martin, on 0 points. So very exciting, even in the midfield. And yeah, even we had some great overtakes like that Colapintos overtake. It's not the first time he has done it. He has done something similar in Singapore, obviously, a couple of years ago. But yeah, going back over here to the lead of the championship, I think Antonelli has gotten that buffer that he really deserves. And, we simply got to update the car after the summer break, to really give him a proper fight for the World Championship. In the 2026 Constructors Championship, this is looking pretty nice. Okay, we made a bit of a ground to Mercedes-Benz, who are leading with 358 points. We are on 285 points. So yeah, obviously still 73 points behind. But that's less than 2 races to go. So there is still a chance we could be in the lead of the championship heading into, of course, the Italian Grand Prix, because especially given that Zandvoort will be a sprint this year. Third, McLaren, we got them covered with 195 points. And fourth, Red Bull also quite far behind on 151 points. Fifth is Alpine, 61 points. Again, courtesy of some great drives by Gasly. They are ahead of sixth Racing Bulls, who are also on 61 points. Big fight there for that coveted fifth place, who is the best of the rest, so to speak. 7 Haas, 21 points. 8 Williams, 11 points. But Audi, 9, 10 points. That's a good performance from them. If they keep going like this way, they could climb to 8 or 7 very soon. 10 Aston Martin, 1 point. And 11 newcomers Cadillac on 0 points. So yeah, this is how the Constructors Championship looks like. So we can be quite pleased about it. This is how the Drivers Championship looks like. And here you have Andrea Kimi Antonelli winning again, 6th time, first time since the first 5 races that he has won. So yeah, he will be happy about it. But of course, for us, yeah, that's another confirmation of, who is the driver to beat in the all-new innovative 2026 season. So this is how the race went. I hope you enjoy it. I like these quicker races. It was over in 84 minutes. Again, despite obviously, the cars, not having the ultimate, speed down the straights. But yeah, I think it was very clear that they needed somebody like me, because I always win this far, right? That's right. Or Michael Schumacher, again, that sometimes, the driver can really decide it, especially when it's that close. Obviously, you will see very soon when I will be racing in Belgium. I was racing in Great Britain. With regards to my race, man, it was raining a lot, but I think this race will give me a lot of confidence for the second and decisive part of the season, because to be perfectly honest with you, at one point it looked like I was gonna lose that 11-point lead of the championship, and extended it obviously to fantastic 19 points, with a great recovery drive. I struggled on the full wets, but you could see once I put on the intermediates, I was just getting better and better, and that's really encouraging, because it's such conditions where I actually struggle quite a lot in Australia, but here in Great Britain you can see I think we made great setup changes. We understand what makes us fast in the wet conditions, and great control, especially through Beckett's I was really flying, and great overtake on obviously George Russell. We made Verstappen crash, right? He crashed actually at the same the stove corner, just like he did in the real Formula 1. So that was greatly satisfying, and you can see, you put the people under pressure. This is exactly what we need to do in a real Formula 1. Put Mercedes under pressure, they will start making mistakes, and titles will be ours! That's right. And yeah, obviously to round off this great race reaction, I found it quite interesting that some of the Ferrari mechanics were actually singing the Italian national anthem when Antonelli won. So happy times for Italy, like they said on Sky Sports. But obviously we hope it will be us, the Scarlet Cars, that will be winning, and we don't let Mercedes steal this very, very important title, because if that happens, it took Michael Schumacher, up until 2000, so it was 21-year gap. Now it's a 19-year gap since our last championship, so it's a high time that, we went for it and won, and we hope that, one of our favorite players or whoever will actually win. We won mine in the FIFA World Cup. If you're definitely following, Spain plays against Argentina, or Argentina defending champions, playing against Spain, and it's gonna be really cool to see what will happen, especially with Lionel Messi. Obviously, a la Football Club FC Barcelona. Yeah, I'm a big fan, and having Lamine battling Yamal, you know, that very iconic picture of Messi battling Yamal over there is just fantastic. And, you know, such a, you know, the fact that they meet for the first time and maybe the only time in their careers in a FIFA World Cup, it will be really truly special. And yeah, we will see. May the best team win. Again, I think Messi would deserve it because, and let's hope he scores a hat-trick and gets the golden boot, because nobody's gotten 2 golden boots before. It would go to Mbappe, who obviously Messi strongly dislikes. He holds the all-time record now, so Messi has a lot to play for. Yamal obviously being teenager, just like Antonelli, you know, punching above his weight. And you know, yeah, it's very, very impressive to see. He's the new Barca number 10. And of course, he will very soon be the Spanish number 10. And yeah, you know, definitely worthy replacement of Messi, even though we don't know how his career will, you know, pan out. But it will be really interesting to see. Just like in the real Formula 1, where you have basically a guy double age, you know, fighting. You have a teenager, just 19 years of age, and a guy pretty much double age, or actually more than double age, with Messi being 39, Hamilton being 41. You know, it's a proper title fight. Then what will win? What do you think? Let me know. Experience and obviously, you know, the perfect crystallized skills, or will it be, you know, the pure talent and obviously the bravery of the youth? We will soon find out. We hope you enjoyed this great, iconic, legendary race at Spa-Francorchamps. And now all we can say is that we love